Okay, now coming to the third wall, sorry, this is the third wall. Which is the third wall? We call it the androecium. We also call it the stamen. Stamens and androecium are almost the same. This is the third wall, right? So what does the third wall speak about? This is one of the most important wall. This is the male reproductive part of a flower. This is very important. This is how it looks. This is a stamen. This is the male reproductive part of a plant, right? Which, remember, we discussed, it's got two parts. This is the anther and this is the filament. The slender stalk-like thing is the filament, and this sac-like thing at the top is called the anther. If you now just try and recollect, every time you pick up a flower, you will be seeing this. Especially in hibiscus, this is very clear. Please try and figure it out. Try and remember and try and recollect. Then it's easier. Once you see, it is easier to remember. Science is all about activities and experiments. Okay, so anther. Now we come to anther. Anther has got two lobes. One on the right, one on the left. See? Clear demarcation. It has got two lobes on the either sides. Now, each lobe has got two sacs each. So basically, each anther will have four pollen sacs. Two this side, two this side. Two on the right side, two on the left side. So total there will be four anthers, four pollen sacs in an anther. Right? And what are these sacs filled up with? These sacs are filled up with pollen grains. These sacs are filled up with pollen grains. These pollen grains are at the top of these anther.
Ma'am, what is a sac?
Sac, in Hindi, if you say sac, is like a boria. It is like a small bag. Sac is like a small bag. A place which can contain something. Just a bag. Now, this is a microscopic structure of a pollen grain. What is a pollen grain? All of you must have seen. Yes, it is a rice sac. So all of you must have seen pollen grains. What are pollen grains? Pollen grains are basically yellow dust-like structure, right? The yellow dust-like structure that is there in all the flowers is called a pollen grain. Pollen grain are basically, most of the time they are yellow in color, yellow dust-like substances found on the. So this is the pollen grain. This is a microscopic structure of a pollen grain. If you put that one tiny little pollen grain under the microscope, this is how it will look. Correct? Now, going to the next. This is the fourth whorl. Which is the fourth whorl? It is the pistil. A pistil is also known as a gynoecium. Right? A pistil is known as the gynoecium. This is the fourth whorl. Pistil is also known as a carpel. You can call it carpel. You can call it pistil. It is one and the same. Yes, Satyam, sacs contain the pollen grain. Now, this is the female reproductive part of a flower. Remember, here we studied stamens are the male reproductive part. Here, pistils are the female reproductive part of the flower, right? And this is the innermost whole of the flower. Sabse andar, it is ekdam at the inside of a flower. Because it is very precious and very fragile, so it is kept in the inside of the flower. God has designed nature so beautifully, right? It is also called the pistil. And as we discussed...
Ma'am, group of pistil is called gynoecium.
Not group of pistil. The system is known as gynoecium. Group नहीं. इसमें group नहीं होता है. Pistil एक ही होता है. There's only one pistil. Okay. So a pistil has got three parts, as we discussed. The topmost portion is called stigma. I'll just enlarge it for you to see. This portion is called the stigma. This long portion is called the style. And this globular circular portion is called the ovary. See, they have enlarged. This is the ovary. And if you cut the ovary, you will find small, small seed-like structure. This is called the ovules. I think so Vamika had said that this ovary later, when the right time comes, it grows to a
Yes,
fruit.
ma'am, I had
Yeah,
said.
it grows to a big fruit. And the small seeds inside grows to a seed. Just imagine this is like an apple. The ovary turns to an apple, and these ovules turn into the apple seed. This is actually what happens to that small little ovary. Can you believe it? So how does it happen? When does it happen? Who helps it to happen? That we will study. But before studying that, we had to understand all these things. So one more thing which I wanted to tell you, here in the stigma, it is very sticky. It is a little gluey, and it is a little thorny also at times. Velvety, thorny, gluey, sticky, so that when the pollinators sit on it, for example, when a honeybee or an insect sits on it, you know, it it puts all the pollen here, and the pollen sticks here in the stigma. Remember, its stigma is sticky. Okay, of that.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, Swamika.
Are these different type of pistils in the diagram?
No, these are not two different kinds of pistils. Basically, if you see, this is a pistil, right? This is a pistil, and this is the inside of a pistil. They have actually
Oh,
dissected. They have actually dissected the pistil. If you open the pistil, it will resemble something like this. And many a times it happens also so that different flowers have pistils which look a little different, but the overall structure is like this. The overall structure of a flower, pistil of a flower looks like this. Upper there will be stigma, there will be a slender portion called style, and base there will be a circular portion called the ovary. Inside there will be ovules. This is a very general picture of any pistil. Okay, so I'm moving forward to the next portion. Okay, a little more in detail. We have already discussed this. So a stigma, as I said, is a little sticky. It is a little flattened. Just see here. It is a little flattened at the top. Why flattened? It is giving enough space for the insects to sit. Beto, sit and give me pollen grains. You know, and then it is sticky at the top and it receives pollen grains. Style. This is the slender portion style which actually supports the stigma. The ovary and the stigma, the style supports it by joining both of them together. Right? And ovary, as we discussed, is the basal swollen part. It can at times have one chamber, it can have two chambers, it can have more than two chambers. It depends from flower to flower, species to species, fruits to fruits. All fruits are not the same. You will see there are times like lychee. Lychee has one fruit has one big seed. In mango, one mango has one big seed. But in case of apple, one apple will have some 20 seeds. One orange will have some 20-25 seeds. Right? So it all depends on how many chambers the ovary will have, how many ovules it will have. Correct? So the ovules are attached to a ridge of tissues called an placenta. So all these ovules, are connected by a thin pipe, which is called the placenta. I would request all of you to please do a study, go to Google, go to images, and please take out pictures of this stigma, style, and ovary. You will have a better understanding of that. Different flowers have different arrangements of ovules and ovary, stigma and style. They come in different patterns. This is a very generalistic view. Okay. Yes, Pragya, it is indeed interesting. Right? So we will be discussing about inflorescence, but even before we go to
ma'am, I
that,
have a question about the last slide. The ovules are attached to
a very thin structure, a very thin
um,
capillary, a very thin tube-like
just
structure,
present
which is
placenta.
called the placenta. No, Pragya, apple does not have two seeds. Apple has multiple seeds. If you have just one slice of apple, you will find 2 to 3 seeds. An entire apple will have more than 7 to 8 seeds. Yes, Satyam, placenta. Placenta is that thin tube-like structure which connects the ovule to the ovary to give all the nutrition, just like in the case of human beings. Okay. Now, even before I discuss inflorescence, I wanted to discuss, okay, types of flowers. You know, as we know, there are different types of flowers, but broadly speaking, we can, you know, differentiate flowers broadly into two types. One is complete flower. What is a complete flower? A complete flower will have all the four whorls together.
Yes, ma'am. And an incomplete flower doesn't have all the four whorls.
Yes, especially it will have the stamen and the pistil together.
Ma'am, they have pistil and stamen.
Yes, very good. An incomplete flower. What is an incomplete flower? An incomplete flower?
Ma'am, which have joint petals, they are called complete flower.
No, not joint petals. That is different. We are talking here, actually here we'll be talking only about stamens and pistils. Incomplete flower will have either stamen or pistil. Either one of them.
Ma'am, you have written stem instead of stamen.
Oh yes, that must have been a spelling mistake. Yeah, so this is how it is. Correct? So basically, to make things a little more clear, let me tell you, a complete flower basically will have stamen and pistil together. And an incomplete flower will have either stamen or pistil. It will not have two together. Now, just to cite a few examples. What are the examples? Examples of complete flowers are datura, hypomia, and hibiscus. Please try and find out a hibiscus flower and try to do a dissection. It is very easy to do a dissection of a hibiscus flower. You know, in a hibiscus flower, this portion is very clear. And even the anther and the filaments are very clear. You must do the dissection of a hibiscus flower to understand all the four whorls together. This is the most commonly used flower in case of science experiments when we have to study the different parts of a flower. So if you can lay your hands on a hibiscus, please try take help from your parents because it might need scissors and knife, very fine pen knife. Use that and you can do a dissection at home. Okay. All right. So is complete flower clear to all of you? Please studies these.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please keep. Okay, great. Please keep these examples in mind. Datura, hypomia, hibiscus, these are all complete flowers. See, the pollen grains are also there. That means stamen is there. And this is the pistil. So it has got both stamen and pistil. Complete flower. Okay. Now going to incomplete flowers. What are incomplete flowers? They will have, one thing missing. They will have either stamen or pistil. Examples are cucumber, bottle gourd, that is lauki, and papaya. These are examples of incomplete flower. Just to give you an example of a papaya tree. Example, many a times what happens is that farmers, they plant papaya. Papaya farmers, they'll have a field full of papaya plants. And then they will find, array, there are certain papaya plants जिसमें fruits ही नहीं होता. Why my papaya tree is not having fruits? Whereas some papaya trees are having fruits, papayas. Why certain papaya plants are not having papaya? That's because they have male flowers. That is a male papaya plant. Only the female papaya plant will have papaya fruits because these have incomplete flowers. So the papaya tree, let me just, type it down for you. It will be easier for you to understand. Same is the case for cucumbers also. For example, a papaya tree is incomplete. For example, a papaya tree will be of two types, which will have either a female tree or a male tree. Correct. Now, in case of a female tree, the flowers will have what? Pistils only, right? It will have only pistils. The male tree, what will it have? The male tree will have only stamen. Correct. This will undergo fertilization and this will produce fruits. But stamens, these will not have stigma and style, stamen flowers. So this will have no fruits. So these papaya trees will not have any fruits. Is the concept clear? These are pistillate flowers and these are staminate flowers. Correct? So there is a difference. So this is only seen in incomplete flowers, trees which have incomplete flowers. Cucumber, bottle gourd and papaya. Okay. So after doing complete and incomplete flowers, we will have, okay, this is the same unisexual and bisexual flowers. Yeah, so bisexual flowers is the same, which will have both androecium and gynoecium. And unisexual, uni means one. Unisexual means one.